Hi, my name is Paint Farmer, and today we're going to be going through primitive data types in Solidity. You're not going to need Remix for this, and if you've already done this in like other languages, this video is going to be a good refresher, but it's not really necessary. Um, it's just like all the basic types you'll be using, and you should be familiar with. So the first one, if we're going through Solidity by example, you're going to see is Boolean. A Boolean, and we're going to do this right here, is basically a binary. It's either true or it's false. Just kind of get that down there. So bool, it's bad. Binary, it is true or it's false. I was gonna like do color, but I just realized it's not really worth it. By default, Booleans are always gonna be defaulted at false, so let's just circle that and make a note. Of course, I didn't select the drawing tool. It's always gonna default to false, but it's just a simple binary. After Booleans, we have unsigned integers or uints. Those are all real numbers, so anything that's not negative. So like if this is a number line, so let's just make one real quick. So this is -1. I'll make this black. -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Um, everything after 0 is going to be an unsigned or is going to be an unsigned integer. So if you try to use 0 or like -1, -2, you're going to get an issue. And unsigned integers, if I remember correctly, always default to 0. So if you ever do like just have a random unsigned integer, you just want to define it, it's going to be 0. Then we come to, let me label this too. Forget that uint. The next one is integers, and integers basically the same thing as unsigned integers, except they include negative numbers. So int equal uint with negative numbers. And I'm going to go over really quickly, basically for both of them, what it means to go like uint 8, uint 16, and int, 8, 16, 256. That's just how large and how much space is going to be allocated for the integer and how big it can be. By default, you're going to use uint 256. If you're looking to optimize gas, it's recommended to use the smallest uint possible because it's going to take up the least amount of space. And the same thing is for the int. They're both like the same in that sense. It's just how big the numbers are going to be, and it always defaults to 256. But if you can limit the size of them and make it, perfect, it's going to cost less space. It was going to take up less space and cost less. Um, and the default for both of these is 0. And you can call something that's really cool. You can call the minimum and maximum of each by just doing type and then int or uint dot min dot max, defining that as a public variable and then calling it remix. I would do that, but I think that it just takes up too much time for such a quick video. You can always do it on your own. Next, we have addresses. So an address is either a address is either an EOA, which is an externally owned account, and that's like anyone that you run or any like MetaMask wallet or anything like that. It's a person slash people, and then contracts, such as like smart contracts, like the Uniswap router, escrows, etc. And what you want to define these in, or actually, and I forgot to do this, is like burn addresses. So if you want to like burn tokens or anything like that, that's another way you can do it. Um, the one thing that this tutorial doesn't really put up out here now, and I think it should, and it will later on, is that there's a different type of address that is a payable address. So if you want to send money or tokens to an address, like the only reason you would use address in this instance, or one of the reasons might be like a multi-sig, where you wanted to sign on for sign a transaction, like multiple signatures to pass. But if you like for most instances, you're going to want to be sending tokens or money between addresses. In order to do that, it has to have a payable type. So it would be address payable. Can I only make that bold? No, I can't. Payable public. Name is equal to 0x whatever. And lowercase name. And if you don't have the payable, you're going to get an error trying to send money. So you always have to have that. And if you just want to just like define an address or interact with one without paying or sending it tokens, you don't need the payable. Otherwise, you do. Um, and then we have bytes, and bytes is just like, like ones and zeros is all that is. You will be using it sometimes, but for what we're going to do in this tutorial, not very often. Just, it's good to know what they look like and what they are. It's like 0xb5. And if you ever to code something on Etherscan using their built-in, like, smart contract decoder, it will come out in bytes. There, you can see it in bytes and it'll kind of look like that. And these are the default values, like, a Boolean will always default to false. Uint and integer will always default to int. Uint will always default to 0. An address is always going to default to 0x, 0 repeating, so it's just going to go on to zeros until it maxes out. Uh, and yeah, that's really about all you're going to work with. I hope this is simple enough for you, and if you have any questions, feel free to join my Discord. Otherwise, hope you have a great day, and yeah, have a smiley face on your way out. And come back for the next tutorial, please. Thank you. Have a good one.